Back in 2018, I spent a while suspecting that I might be transgender. And in early 2019, totally by accident, I stumbled onto something that not only explained my own strange feeling that I was a lady cat inside, but also revealed why a lot of popular ideas about transgender don't make sense when you stop to think about them, and why the behavior of some trans activists has been, shall we say, slightly sus.
Now I get it.
The following program may be offensive to some viewers.
I mean it this time.
I do too.
I'm sorry, but this is not the time or place for children.
The journey was long and annoying, but now you get to see what it's really about.
I present to you the answer.
One word.
And this is it.
Oh my god.
Autogynephilia, also known as AGP.
It can't be.
The love of oneself as a woman.
The starting point of everything.
The erotic desire to make the self female. A paraphilia, that is, unusual sexual interest.
What?
What?
Of course.
I want to be a woman.
Was it sexual?
Yes, overwhelmingly so.
Have I got your attention now?
One cause of gender dysphoria in males.
I must get free.
Of course! Now I understand!
Let there be light. Oh, now I see.
And now, at last, it's time to talk about it.
If anyone here knows a reason why this episode should not be aired, speak now or forever hold your...
Autogynephilia? Nah, mate, it's fake news. Discredited. Irrelevant. Non-existent. Oh, well, I guess that settles it. End of video, you can all go home.
Please don't go. Please, I'll make you breakfast.
I'm serious, mate. I will not have you spreading transphobic pseudoscience on the webinets. And you'd better not tell them that there are two types of trans women either. There are two types of trans women? What, you didn't know that? I do now. Well, unknow it, because it's offensive. You mean untrue? Oh, same thing, isn't it? But I've spent 6 episodes building up to this. There's got to be a payoff. Should have thought of that before you invented me as your debating partner. But it's an important part of transgender scientific history. It's not in this book on transgender history by Susan Stryker, which happens to be entitled Transgender History.
You won't find this in there.
And that's an interesting omission, considering one of the books Stryker includes in her recommended reading list. Obviously, she left out AGP because it's an outdated, wrong-headed, blind alley. Well, she could have included it and said that. We're doing book reviews now, are we?
I'd like to spend my vacation at the library.
Shouldn't I at least go over the basics of the concept so that people know what the Canadian afterlife we're arguing about?
Why always the fighting?
I have to know.
You mean purely in terms of a historical curiosity, with no possible relevance to the modern day whatsoever? Sure, yeah, if you like. Oh, well, I guess I can put up with that for the moment.
Let's do it.
All right, if that's your decision.
Thank you. Okay, well, it looks like we're not heading into space today. We're headed into time. Specifically, the past.
To find both halves of the triangle.
Please keep in mind that I'm just a laycat and not an expert. So at various points, you might be like,
That's not entirely accurate.
I'll do my best to get it as not wrong as possible, but consider this a rough guide, not a history book.
Foolish earthling, totally unprepared for the effects of time travel.
Roll tape!
It may be very difficult for you to accept what I'm going to say.
As you can see, we've had our eye on you for some time now. It seems that you've been living 2 lives.
Not 1, not 3, 2.
I am the feminine in your mind.
You are about to experience the terror and foul horror time is nigh to conquer man's silent fear. Mankind, I bless you now with sight.
Or at least that's how I've always imagined Dr. Ray Blanchard saying it. I may be taking some liberties with the historical accuracy of that speech. You see, the way a lot of transgender rights activists tell it, Blanchard is this insane Dr. Frankenstein type, whose colossal pride and arrogance led him to summon the idea of autogynephilia out of thin air, like some kind of cosmic horror from beyond our dimension.
The great eye breathed in flame.
To even gaze upon it is to go mad.
And his evil schemes were only defeated by the brave and tireless efforts of the activists.
What a huge mistake. Huh? He deceived us.
His mad theory was discredited, and he was driven into exile, with only a few deluded followers remaining loyal to him. That's a good story. But did it really happen that way?
Yes! Wrong!
There is much you do not know.
Take it from the beginning. Assume we know nothing.
Back in the 1980s, Dr. Blanchard was trying to find out what caused transsexualism in natal males. Now, natal means your biological birth sex. You know, the thing that nowadays we say doctors assign you at birth like you're in some kind of flight school? In those days, to the average guy or girl, a transsexual was a strange and mysterious kind of person.
He's a she.
But to psychologists and sexologists and clinicians, transsexuals were several kinds of strange and mysterious person. And they spent a lot of time arguing about how many types of transsexual there were, or more accurately, how many types of dysphoric patients who wanted to transition there were. It was a pretty complicated debate, and I'm going to skip over most of it for the moment.
I can't deal with that now.
They also considered gender identity disorder to be, well, a disorder. A male saying he wanted to live as a woman had clearly malfunctioned.
Malfunctioned? That is tremendously impolite of you.
Right, yes, sorry.
For now, I just want to focus on one assumption that was still pretty common even in the 80s. A male to female transsexual should be someone who is attracted to men. In technical terms, they should be androphilic. You were supposed to have the hots for guys. Or at least want a relationship with a guy, even if it might skip the bedroom stuff.
But why?
This happened back when America was all upbeat, clean-cut, and expecting to get blown up any minute.
Remember Harry Benjamin? He was one of the first people in the English-speaking West to argue for medical transition as a way to treat dysphoria. At that time, around the middle of the 20th century, the attitude of most docs was that dysphoric people was straight-up nutjobs, and they were treated with the same gentle care and respect as gay people.
Do I detect a note of sarcasm?
If you don't respond to drug therapy, I'll authorize electroshock.
Can we use one of our crazy carts to send him to the crazy house for boys?
You'll be confined here for a period no shorter than the rest of your life.
They let you keep the piece of brain they cut out.
Benjamin said, yeah, nah, we can't cure them that way with therapy or more forceful methods. It doesn't work. These patients' feelings of being trapped in the wrong body just refuse to go away. So to relieve their misery, we should treat the condition with hormones and surgery, and social transitioning, just like Europeans had been doing since before World War II. And a lot of people thank him for that.
The shots and the pills have softened my voice. I don't grow facial hair, my skin is soft.
But being a man of his time, he also took it for granted that genuine transsexuals, who in those days were almost all male to female, would be into men in some way, shape or form, at least after transitioning. Because if you wanted to be considered a woman, well, that's who most women like. If you were mainly attracted to women, you weren't really transsexual. You were something else, which I'll talk about later.
You talk some TV? I talk some TV.
These days, we don't worry so much about whether you're attracted to women or men or both or neither when it comes to being trans. But American society was still having a collective freakout over men kissing men and women kissing women, never mind sex changes, and everyone had their own idea about where to draw the line.
Here comes one that looks fancy.
It wasn't just about who you wanted to shack up with either.
Are you the gatekeeper?
It was also about hitting all the feminine cliches. If you wanted permission to transition, the gatekeepers wanted to make sure you would make a proper woman. Whatever proper meant.
And a lady should be modest.
That's not entirely...
Yeah, fair enough. I'm glossing over a lot of complex history here.
It's not that simple.
Actually, by the 70s, things were getting a bit more flexible. There were trans women who considered themselves trans lesbians and had managed to get treatment.
Go on, scaredy cat.
We can be flexible.
But if you take one thing away from all this, it's that trans people have good reason to get cranky about being judged or classified on the basis of their sexual orientation. They had a gutful of it back then. Spoiler alert, the rest of this episode will discuss judging and classifying trans people on the basis of their sexual orientation. Still, looking at it from the doc's perspective,
I'm the scientist.
if transsexualism is a medical treatment for a psychological condition, if the idea is to treat dysphoria, you want to be sure you're treating the people who really need it. I mean, medical transition is pretty drastic. You don't want to dole it out willy-nilly to people who might later regret their nilly-willy.
What have I done?
Right, stop that! Some tragedies did not offer a second chance.
In any case, what it added up to
The eyes are opening.
was that the Stargate to Girl Galaxy was heavily guarded. The ideal candidate, who deserved medical intervention, was a natal male who could pass well and fit in, act like a stereotypical lady, and have good old-fashioned rocket-in-pocket intercourse with a man. Now, who would best fit those criteria?
Wait, I know!
What revelations do you bring me?
In my earlier videos, you might have noticed a certain color showing up from time to time. You might have guessed that it's a cryptic symbol for something. And now it's finally time to reveal what it means. You know which color I mean, don't you? That's right. Orange.
Wait, what?
Or maybe it looks kind of brown to you, it depends on your screen. Anyhow, this is not the color I use to signify autogynephilia. That would be green, and I'll deal with that a bit later. But first though, we need to tackle the orange side of things. And don't worry, it's only mildly controversial. Think of it as a warm-up.
It's ancient and forever. It was like the storm in the heart of the sun.
Upon my seeping into the corporeal world, I will be the dominant over all, man included. Why should you deserve special considerations above all else? Behold.
Have you heard that sexual orientation has nothing to do with gender identity? Well, you might want to rethink that. I've certainly had to. Have you heard that gender doesn't exist, and femininity is just a bunch of stereotypes foisted on women by society? You might want to rethink that one too. Because according to decades of scientific research, homosexuality in males is associated with feminine behavior, and sometimes transsexualism.
Hang on.
Remember back in episode 3 when I talked about those little boys who act naturally girly? Not just some of the time, and not just mildly girly, but 24/7, flowers and fairies and glitter and dresses, and hates wrestling and says he wishes he was a girl and, my god, what's going on with my son? Well, as he grows up, a boy like that might swap over to living as a girl. In other words, become a trans woman. Now, don't get too excited, because only a few of the super feminine boys actually go down that road. But as adults, people like this do turn up as a kind of third gender category in a lot of times and places, even without medical help. And today, if you hear the term trans woman, you might instinctively picture someone like that. Someone whose destinies seem pretty clear from the start. Like a Thai ladyboy.
You look so beautiful.
And feminine.
But such girly boys, such biological males to be precise, weren't always well known in the West. Benjamin was amazed when he and Kinsey met a kid like that back in 1948, because he'd only learned about transsexualism in adults back in Germany. And that's kind of ironic, because once they grew up, these trans women happened to fit in pretty well with what the old school gatekeepers wanted to see. Why do I say that? Well, even though only a handful of ultra girly boys grow up to become trans, most of them do grow up to be androphilic, attracted to men. Now, if we were being polite, we might call the ones who turn out trans straight trans women, and the ones who keep on living as guys we'd call gay men. But in cold and clinical scientific terms, they're all feminine homosexual males, or androphilic males if you prefer. And this link between how you act and who you like isn't just true of tremendously girly boys. A boy who is moderately feminine is more likely than other boys to grow up gay.
Wait, what?
What did you say?
Did you ever get the feeling you're only going with girls because you're supposed to?
Do you want to come back to my place?
It's not just seen in childhood either. Adult gay men tend to be a bit more feminine than straight men, on average.
What?
Now, when I first read about this, I thought, come on, that's just an old stereotype about gay guys being effeminate.
It's silly.
There's macho manly gay guys too, and there are feminine straight men. Which is true. But if you take a step back and look at the statistics, at groups of people, a pattern emerges.
It's an older code, sir, but it checks out.
Solid.
If I picked one gay man totally at random off the street, I couldn't tell you in advance whether he would be masculine, feminine, campy, or whatever.
I hate the sight of blood.
But if I picked out 1,000 gay men and 1,000 straight men, more of the gay men would be feminine than the straight men.
Ever tried to get bloodstains out of a silk shirt? Nightmare.
And there would be more of them in traditionally female-dominated jobs.
I hear it.
Hear what?
Not only that, but some of the macho gay men might turn out to have been actually pretty sissy as young kids.
Mind you, I did my best to fit in.
For some of them, acting manly might really be an act that they learned to perform as they got older.
We're gonna be manly! Let this be the hour when we draw swords together.
Right, stop that!
But why?
No, that can't be right.
Where do you get this stuff from? The little golden book of fairy.
Who get her? Whoops, I've got your number that you couldn't afford me, dear.
Don't be personal.
Don't ever say or think that again!
I'll feed your tongue to the dogs, you impertinent little pup.
And this isn't just some brain fart by some homophobic scientist in a bunker somewhere. This has been studied since the 1960s at least, including with longitudinal studies that follow kids as they grow up to see how they turn out. Try thinking about it in terms of a homosexual spectrum. See, up this end of the rainbow, you have your masculine, manly gay guys. And over this way, you've got the feminine gay guys. They're kind of swishy and campy. If you compare that to the heterosexual spectrum, you might notice a gender red shift. Or pink shift, possibly. Homosexual males, as a group, are nudged a bit towards the feminine end. Any individual gay guy could be anywhere on the spectrum. But overall, gayness in men is associated with femininity. And it's more obvious in preteen boys, who obviously aren't exactly classifiable as gay or straight just yet. But if you keep an eye on the ones who act girly at a young age, they're more likely to grow up gay than the stereotypical boyish boys.
Dad,
Aren't you gonna watch the game?
I was just...
Now wait a second!
That's as far as I'm going.
Stereotype. It's faster.
If you reckon that masculinity and femininity are just stereotypes conditioned into us, why do these little boys relentlessly follow stereotypes for girls, even though their families, friends and society try to condition them out of it?
Once again, I need to underline with a pink pencil that you can't predict the future of any one particular feminine boy.
Difficult to see.
There are plenty who turn out to be typical straight guys. And you can't be sure any one adult man is gay just because he acts kind of feminine, or vice versa.
I don't want one position, I want all positions!
All you can do is spot a trend across the whole group. If you're into classic science fiction, you could call it the Harry Seldon principle.
Huh? I'm being silly.
Right. Now, cut to the next scene.
Just call me Scissors Girl.
And yes, a similar statistical effect shows up in female homosexuality too.
My mom told me if I acted more like a girl, I wouldn't get hurt all the time.
Lesbians are more likely, as a group, to be a bit more masculine than straight women. There's a gender blue shift towards the masculine.
No shit.
Now let's see something decent and military.
And that shows up in preteen girls. Although the statistical association is weaker, it's a lot fuzzier which ones will grow up to like girls. Quite a lot of tomboys turn out straight.
Yeah, let's break some rules!
You're being very rude.
You know, certain stereotypes are not very empowering.
You don't know anything about me.
I know enough.
Now from Holland, we applaud the arrival of a new and exciting taste that will linger for hours.
I have a sixth sense. I see gay people.
I'm sorry, baby, but I never hit on straight chicks.
You don't even walk like me.
Oh, no.
I was beaten up in the name of sport,
And I've cried in front of the entire office.
I just ran into her. There's nothing happening between me and Colette.
Sure. Of course, I don't cry. You're just a killer.
Oh, let me just check my Gaydar. It says, even if he was gay, he wouldn't fancy you.
While we're on the subject of Team Rainbow, I just want to mention that Dr. Ray Blanchard is actually famous for 2 findings, but one of them doesn't get brought up much. He found that the more older brothers a man has, the more likely he is to be gay. It's quite a weird finding, and I'm not going to go into it in detail here.
I can't deal with that now.
But there is a fair bit of evidence for it. So the next time you hear someone dismiss Blanchard as a loony, remember that he's not just the AGP guy. He has other respectable discoveries to his name.
Don't you understand? The world needs to be saved tonight from its fear of darkness!
So you're saying Dr. Blanchard came up with all this homosexual femininity nonsense? What? No. No. What on earth gave you that impression? Well, you started off this video talking about him, and you mentioned him again just now. So I thought, no, the link between male homosexual orientation and feminine behaviour wasn't something Blanchard discovered himself. Other researchers beat him to it. Then what's so important about him? Stick around and you'll find out. Oh, where have you heard that before?
I'm waiting!
Now maybe you think all this homosexual spectrum stuff is shockingly controversial.
Good God.
Or maybe you're nodding and saying,
Duh. Any doubt I had got pounded out of me at the academy.
But what's the link to trans?
Transwarp signature replicated.
In the opinion of some researchers, the far end of the homosexual spectrum is where you find trans people. At least one kind of trans person. See, here are your manly gay males, here are your feminine gay males, and way down this end, you've got biological males who are just so girly, they might as well be girls. Or live as girls.
But why?
Because that's what the straight bloke's like. Plus, it's a way to fit in. If you naturally and instinctively act like a girl, when scientifically you're a boy, people tend to make fun of you. Especially in the old days.
Honor your vows or become an enemy.
I'm a sissy.
But if you act like a girl when they think you are a girl, you get away with it and you can relax and go with the flow. All this might rub you the wrong way depending on your politics.
It's not much of a life when you're just a pretty face.
Just to be whoever you are is no disgrace. Don't be scared if you don't fit in.
You should be proud of who you are.
But it does make intuitive sense, right? Assuming that a trans woman is really some kind of homosexual male dolled up to look like a woman is a pretty common idea among the general public. And what do you know? There is some broad and hazy scientific truth to that. You know those neuroscience studies of trans women's brains that claim to find features similar to female brains? Well, the same result shows up when looking at gay guys' brains too, to some extent. Plus, quite a few gay guys struggle with gender dysphoria when they're young, and so do lesbians. Later on, in their teens or soon afterward, their feelings generally settle down and they feel more comfortable in their own skin.
Your worries are unfounded.
It can take a few years. Being gay isn't a phase, but feeling like you're a triangular peg trying to fit through a hexagonal hole certainly can be.
Be patient, my servant.
Do not be afraid. Did you want to be a boy?
I just want her to let me be.
Unfortunately, those dysphoric feelings sometimes do persist to some degree all their lives. And so eventually, they might decide to join the Transwarp Space Armada. Then again, they might resist crossing the border and instead fight to keep the dysphoria under control. After all, transitioning doesn't always get rid of it.
We seem to be made to suffer.
And when you consider all the medical body horror involved, you might see it as swapping life on hard mode for life on hard mode. So it's not as if your destiny is fixed from day one.
Well, I'm not going that way.
Besides, the society you live in has a lot to do with whether you choose the way of the gay guy or the path of the trans girl. Or even whether that distinction makes any sense to begin with.
This way is much easier.
If you've been listening to all this essential bot stuff with quiet annoyance, then rejoice, because this is where the social constructicons come in.
The future's not set.
You might be a feminine homosexual male thanks to nature, but what label you stick on it, and what you do about it to get through life, depends on culture, and on you.
There's no fate but what we make for ourselves.
I'm not going that way.
And hey, what if they found a way back?
Right, stop that.
Much of what I just said also applies to dysphoric homosexual females
who might decide to transition and become trans men.
Oh, shit.
A simple little idea that will change everything.
No kidding. You know they're planning to go to Mars.
Mars?
Don't change the subject.
Sorry.
Hang on.
If you think about it, you might get a bit worried about recent developments. Once upon a time, we thought about kids with dysphoria, who might one day transition and become trans, or might just grow up gay. So it clearly wouldn't be a good idea to make any drastic decisions too early.
Difficult to see. The bottom line is it isn't safe.
You just want to keep an eye on them for a while and see how things were turning out.
Don't rush it.
Be patient.
But now we often think of ultra girly boys as transgender kids, straight off the bat, which you might say is putting the cart before the unicorn. Dangerously so.
Make haste.
The pain of destruction is also the joy of rebirth.
And it has to be medical experiments for the lot of you.
Why can't they grasp the accountability of what we do?
So you're saying Blanchard discovered homosexual transsexuals? What? No. You need to pay attention. Or maybe you need to tone down the hyperactive video editing. The link between homosexuality and transsexualism had already been observed by the time Blanchard arrived on the scene. Then why do you keep bringing him up? Because this is only part one of a two-part episode. Oh geez, not again. So is a male to female transsexual a kind of extreme homosexual? Are trans women the far end of the rainbow? Does that explain everything about transgender? No. Not by a long shot.
This is no time for your girly crap!
What?
There's a lot more here, folks. They split the triangle into two pieces and hid them at opposite ends of the Earth.
Because while people like this definitely exist, and in some countries they're the majority of trans women, in the West, they weren't the only ones who came to the doc saying they felt like women and wanted to transition.
I want to be a woman.
Far from it.
It must be something else.
What is going on? Another signal. Another signal.
Yeah, second signal, double the frequency.
The color orange that I've just been talking about has been overshadowed by another phenomenon.
Somebody get a TV monitor?
Its continued presence within the world is far more serious to our cause.
As do we all.
Time, money, and manpower.
It is necessary to cement our place in your world.
Aren't you gonna watch the game?
I was just...
Here, educate yourself.
It seems that you've been living two lives.
I like to dress in women's clothing.
Try cross-dresser.
That's a narrow-minded attitude.
There is much you do not know.
Please don't go.
And much you never will.
You won't find this in there.
Of all the second glitch diode blowing dimwittery, you left a piece out.
Right. But that's beside the point.